Imagine doing something 988 times, failing completely, and then just calmly sitting down to write out attempt number 989.
I mean, that is a level of patience I definitely do not have.
Right. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at this single, incredibly dense, it's like 180 words journal entry from a gardener named Ang.
Dated August 17, 2026.
Yeah, exactly. And the mission today, for you listening, isn't just to talk about gardening. We're going to decode the hidden philosophy in this text about utility, how we interact with our environments, and really the silent aesthetics of how we display the things we care about.
Yeah, to give you a sense of the exact source we are analyzing, the entry is literally titled Notes on Gardening, Part 989, The Quest for Perfect Plant Rank.
Part 989.
I know, and while it's barely a paragraph long, it unpacks this totally universal human experience, like the ultimate organizational rabbit hole.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Have you ever spent an entire weekend trying to find, like, the one perfect accessory for your workspace or your home?
Oh yeah, hours of scrolling.
Right. Hours of scrolling, only to realize that the thing you want might not even exist. That is what we're unpacking here.
The sheer, unadulterated dedication implied by Part 989 is just staggering.
Think about the last time you did anything 989 times, let alone chronicled your thoughts on the organizational challenges of it, you know?
It really sets the stakes immediately.
Yeah.
Like, we aren't reading the passing thoughts of a beginner who just, I don't know, bought a pothos at the grocery store.
Yeah, we are analyzing the highly deliberate documentation of a seasoned veteran deep in the trenches of their craft.
That's right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because Ang starts by describing this search, noting that they've been looking for, quote, all these moons.
Which is such a mythic way to describe time.
It really is. And despite all those moons passing, Ang writes that they still cannot find a ready-made plant rack that properly suits different gardening areas.
Right.
Now, I'm going to push back on Ang's entire premise here for a second.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I look around my own house, and ready-made items work perfectly fine.
Okay, fair.
I go to a big box store, I buy a ready-made bookshelf, and I put my books on it. I buy a ready-made organizer for my desk, and my pens fit into it.
Sure.
Why is a garden any different? Like, why can't a gardener just buy a rack, put the pots on it, and be done?
Well, because your books and your pens are dead.
Well, okay, that's blunt.
But it's true. They're static objects, right?
Mm.
When you buy a bookshelf, the books aren't going to, like, double in size over the summer
Right.
or require entirely different levels of ambient humidity depending on which shelf they sit on.
Okay, I see what you mean.
The tension Ang is highlighting here is the friction between mass production and organic life. A ready-made solution implies something manufactured and standardized.
Yeah,
right?
designed to appeal to the widest possible demographic.
Exactly. But biological realities just resist grids and standards entirely.
So the expectation of finding a one-size-fits-all off-the-shelf solution is basically flawed from the start.
Completely flawed.
It's kind of like trying to buy a ready-made suit for someone who changes height every single week.
That is a perfect way to put it. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the mechanics of what Ang actually calls different gardening areas.
Right, because it's not just one uniform space.
No, in a single backyard, you have wildly different microclimates. The soil drainage varies. The airflow changes based on the proximity to a fence.
Oh, wow. Even a fence makes a difference.
Absolutely. The angle of the sun shifts not just throughout the day, but throughout the entire year.
So a factory makes a wooden or metal rack based on average dimensions and temperate conditions, but nature doesn't care about factory averages.
Nature simply does not operate on averages. A rack that provides perfect morning light to your succulents in May might plunge them into damp shade by August, just because the tree canopy above it filled out.
Wow, I see the trap now. Ang is trying to apply a rigid, static, industrial solution to a fluid, living, biological environment.
Exactly.
The search isn't failing because the market is bad. The search is failing because the physics of a garden are inherently anti-standardization.
Which is exactly what makes the next phase of Ang's journal so compelling. Because after all these moons of abstract searching, they actually stumble upon a tangible candidate in the wild.
A potential breakthrough.
A huge breakthrough.
And the description of this discovery completely caught me off guard.
Right.
Ang finds a rack made of, quote, rather thick plastic in vibrant red.
Yeah, vibrant red.
And the immediate justification provided in the text is its durability. Ang notes it's specifically meant to withstand harsh tropical weather.
Yes.
But I have to be honest, when I think of beautiful, dedicated gardening, I do not think of thick, vibrant red plastic.
No one does.
I think of like aged cedar or maybe wrought iron or natural stone. Why would a chunky plastic piece be the very first thing to catch a 989 parts deep expert's eye?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Totally. To me, it feels like buying an industrial grade, brightly colored, heavily rubberized phone case just to survive a tough morning commute.
That's a great analogy.
It completely prioritizes brute survival over any sense of elegance.
It absolutely prioritizes survival. Because, frankly, elegance does not survive harsh tropical weather.
Fair point.
Let's break down the physical realities of the environment Aang is referencing here.
Yeah, let's do that.
In a harsh tropical climate, you are dealing with intense, blistering, ultraviolet radiation from the sun. And that's followed by torrential downpours, all wrapped in a blanket of suffocating humidity.
So the environment is basically actively hostile to anything natural.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. If you put that romantic aged cedar rack out there, the moisture and heat create the perfect incubator for fungal rot.
Oh, gross.
Termites and wood-boring insects will completely dismantle it.
And what if you use standard metal?
If you use standard metal, the humidity will oxidize it into rust within a single season.
Wow.
And the UV radiation literally breaks down the cellular bonds in natural materials. So suddenly, materials that might seem artificial or cheap in a temperate, climate-like, heavy-duty synthetic plastic become the most highly evolved, logical choices.
Because plastic just ignores rot.
It ignores rot, it repels water instantly, and the thick gauge means the UV rays will take decades to make it brittle.
It's a purely functional victory, then. It's a triumph of chemical engineering over the elements, just disguised in this aggressive red aesthetic.
Exactly it.
Aang looks at that vibrant red plastic and doesn't see cheapness. They see invulnerability.
Yes.
And think about the applications of that in your own life, you know? Like, how many ugly plastic solutions do you avoid in your daily organization simply because of vanity?
Oh, all the time.
Right, you buy the beautiful leather bag that gets ruined in the rain instead of the waterproof synthetic one. Aang has moved past vanity into pure hardline utility.
And that realization feels like the climax of the story, like they finally found the indestructible tool.
But solving the weather problem immediately introduces an entirely new, completely insurmountable problem.
It does.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the journal entry takes a sharp turn right here.
A very sharp turn.
That initial rush of discovering a weatherproof rack evaporates. And Aang uses that exact word. The desire suddenly evaporated the second they looked at the price tag.
Yeah.
But it isn't just a matter of the rack being too expensive in a vacuum. It's the comparative math that kills the dream.
Right, the opportunity cost.
Exactly. Aang notes that for the exact same price point, they could purchase a stainless steel 4-tier plant rack.
4 tiers.
Yes, 4. The red plastic rack, by comparison, offers vastly reduced space.
The physical space is the fatal flaw.
It's the classic sports car versus minivan dilemma.
Oh, I love that.
It is exactly like test driving a flashy, vibrant red 2-seater sports car, falling in love with how it handles the elements, but then looking at the sticker price and realizing it costs the exact same amount as a heavy-duty minivan.
And you have 3 kids waiting at home.
Exactly. You simply cannot justify the flashy survival of the sports car when you desperately need the seating capacity of the van.
This raises an important question about the underlying economy of hobbies in general. Well, how do we assign value to the infrastructure of our passions? Are we paying for style? Are we paying for durability? Or are we paying for sheer capacity?
Right.
What we are witnessing in Aang's text is a highly calculated cost-benefit analysis, and it reveals the ultimate currency in the gardening world, which actually isn't weather resistance at all.
The ultimate currency is space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Space. Every single gardener, regardless of their climate or skill level, eventually runs into the hard, unforgiving limit of available square footage.
Because the plants will always grow.
They grow, you propagate more of them, you buy more of them, but the ground you possess is finite. Therefore, verticality becomes a premium, non-negotiable resource.
Right. So when Aang compares the thick red plastic to a 4-tier stainless steel rack, they are calculating the spatial yield of their investment.
Yes.
Let's dig into that mechanism. A 4-tier rack doesn't just hold more pots, it literally alters the real estate of the hobby.
It multiplies the usable footprint of the garden by 4. But it goes deeper than just storage, too. Because plants aren't shoes in a closet, right?
Yeah.
They are actively competing for sunlight and airflow.
Oh, that's true.
If you keep all your pots on the ground or on a low, single-level plastic rack, they will eventually shade each other out. A 4-tier vertical rack creates artificial sun zones.
Artificial sun
Yeah,
zones.
it allows the gardener to put sun-loving plants on the top tier and shade-tolerant plants on the bottom tiers, all within the exact same square foot of patio space.
Oh, that is brilliant.
So the thick red plastic rack, with its reduced space, is essentially asking Ang to pay a premium price for a lower photosynthetic yield.
The math simply does not support the red plastic. The need to house and sustain the biological collection completely outweighs the desire for the indestructible container.
It really does.
If you have to choose between a rack that rusts in 5 years but holds 20 plants, or a rack that lasts forever but only holds 5, the dedicated practitioner has to choose capacity.
The spatial economics alone are enough to reject the plastic rack. Any rational consumer would walk away at that point.
Right.
But Ang's journal entry doesn't end with the financial math.
No, it doesn't.
The text moves past the practical limitations and dives into a highly sophisticated aesthetic realization about how the rack visually interacts with the plants.
Which blew my mind given that we are only talking about 180 words of text here.
I know.
Ang realizes that the vibrant red color of the plastic isn't just a quirky design choice, it is actually a massive visual detriment.
Massive.
They write that the red will overshadow the plants, especially flowering ones. And Ang insists that the primary focus in any garden must remain on the vibrant colors of the blooms.
Right.
So what does this all mean? It means Ang possesses a deep, intuitive understanding of visual hierarchy.
Definitely.
It is exactly like taking a beautiful, delicate watercolor painting and putting it inside a flashing neon frame.
Ooh, yes.
The frame's only job is to support and elevate the art. But if the frame is neon, it totally distracts the viewer. The neon frame steals the show.
What's fascinating here is how clearly Ang defines the boundaries between the tool and the subject. The rack is merely the stage scaffolding, right?
Yeah.
The plants are the performers. Human visual perception is drawn to high saturation, warm colors like vibrant red.
Naturally.
So if the stage is painted in aggressive red, the eye of the viewer is biologically pulled toward the industrial plastic, skipping right past the delicate, nuanced petals of the flowers.
It's a fundamental aesthetic failure on a structural level.
Exactly. The tool is actively harming the display of the hobby.
But, and this is the absolute genius of Ang's entry, they note one brilliant, highly specific exception to this rule.
Yes, the exception.
Ang states that the vibrant red rack would actually work, but only if you pair it specifically with plant species known for their vibrant green foliage.
That single sentence demonstrates a masterful instinctual grasp of the color wheel and optical physics.
Because red and green are complementary colors, they sit directly across from each other on the color wheel.
Yes, and we need to understand why that matters biologically to the human eye.
Okay, lay it on me.
We process color through specialized cells in our retinas, called cones. According to opponent process theory, our visual system processes information in antagonistic pairs.
So like red versus green.
Red versus green, blue versus yellow. When you place a highly saturated red directly next to a highly saturated green, it stimulates those opposing channels simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
It creates a literal visual vibration. They force each other to appear brighter to the human brain.
So Ang isn't making a blanket statement that red is bad. Ang is saying red is highly conditional.
Exactly, conditional.
If you place a red or pink flowering plant on a thick red rack, the blooms get muddy. They lose their visual impact because there's no contrast.
Right.
But if you take a plant that is entirely defined by its lush, vibrant green leaves, let's say a massive tropical fern or a monstera, and you place that on the vibrant red plastic rack, the dynamic completely flips.
The rack stops being a neon distraction. It becomes an active participant in the visual composition.
That makes so much sense.
The red forces your eye to perceive the green chlorophyll in the leaves as even more vibrant, more alive than it would look on a neutral brown or gray shelf.
It elevates the rack from a simple storage utility into a crucial element of the garden's art.
Yeah.
I mean, the level of aesthetic planning required to think about the chemical reaction of wavelengths in the human eye completely shatters the idea of just buying a ready-made solution.
Completely shatters it.
Ang is coordinating climate durability, budget, vertical spatial capacity, and complementary optical theory, all for a single piece of plastic.
Which brings us full circle, the title of the entry, doesn't it? It proves exactly why this is part 989.
Yes.
The sheer volume of variables a true expert is trying to balance is just staggering.
Let's take a step back and look at the massive ground we just covered today, all derived from a mere 180 words.
It's a lot.
We started with the sheer weight of a 989-part quest for organization. We explored the physics of harsh tropical weather and the tantalizing discovery of an indestructible, vibrant red plastic rack. Then, we watched that functional victory completely crumble under the mathematical weight of spatial economics when compared to a four-tier alternative.
The minivan versus the sports car.
Exactly. And finally, we arrived at a profound realization about human visual processing, complementary colors, and the danger of an organizational tool overshadowing the delicate blooms it's meant to support.
It really is a dense narrative arc. We travel from hope to practical reality to artistic refinement, all centered around a discarded piece of plastic.
It's amazing. I want to turn the lens directly to you, the listener, right now.
Yeah, think about this.
Take a moment today and seriously look around your own home, your workspace, or even just the digital folders on your computer. Look at the organizational tools you're currently using.
The racks in your life.
Exactly. Are the racks in your life, your filing systems, your apps, your perfectly curated shelves, actually highlighting your work? Are they seamlessly supporting the things you care about?
Or are they stealing the show?
Right. Or have you accidentally adopted a vibrant red rack that is so loud, so complex, and so demanding of your attention that it is actually overshadowing your own personal blooms?
That happens all the time with productivity apps.
Oh, 100%. Are you spending more time managing the neon frame than looking at the art?
It is a critical audit we all really need to perform periodically.
Yeah.
You have to ensure your stage isn't stealing focus from your performance.
Exactly. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, something that builds on everything Aang wrote but takes it one step further.
Okay, let's hear it.
We talked extensively about Aang's frustration in finding a ready-made rack for different gardening areas. I want you to consider if the very nature of a living, ever-changing garden means that a static, ready-made solution is an impossible paradox.
Because you cannot freeze a dynamic biological system in place with a piece of plastic.
So consider this. Perhaps the real reason we're reading Part 989 isn't because the market simply lacks good plant racks.
What is it then?
Perhaps the quest itself, the continuous adapting to microclimates, the searching for materials, the measuring of spatial yield, the learning about complementary color theory. Perhaps that quest isn't an obstacle keeping Aang from the hobby.
Oh, wow.
Perhaps the quest is the true hobby.
The search is the practice. The organization is the craft.
Think about what we assumed at the very beginning of this deep dive. Usually we assume the tool is just a means to an end, a boring bridge you cross to get to the real activity of painting or running or planting.
Right. The tool is just a tool.
But when you look closely at the complex, deeply technical reality of trying to organize a living passion, that simple relationship flips entirely on its head.
It really does.
You realize that the endless 989-part rabbit hole pursuit of the perfect container, well, that might just be the whole point.